Hi, everybody. It's Anne Moratto with Modern Salon, and I am so happy to be talking to Vee Vargas this morning. We finally our schedules aligned, and we're going to talk a little bit about Vee's emphasis on making education accessible and how she's done that. But there's a lot more to that story. First, V, hello, and I want you to just kind of give us a little introduction to who you are, what you do, and where you do it.
Well, thank you for having me here. And my name is Vee Vargas. My pronouns are she, her, and Aya. And I am located in the Bay Area. I have a salon suite in Oakland, California. And I've been doing hair for over 14 years now. I have been in the Bay Area for 8 years. So I did part of my time in SoCal and now up here in NorCal. And I think these last couple of years, I pivoted when I opened a salon suite. And it went from just having a space where I thought I was going to just do hair and do that thing. But I really wanted to do things in a different way that I had never done them, which led me to start building a brand, to creating a nonprofit, to creating everything where I'm at now, and just really being focused on being in the industry more so that I could create community within the industry, within leaders in the industry, as I saw the lack of access, especially in luxury hair. And that's where I'm at.
That's great. And how we got introduced really was you were one of our experts at one of our industry events, but we could only touch on really just a little bit of what, you do, what you talk about, what you advocate. What we did talk about a little bit was education and how, education's the key to advancement in so many areas of life, and education in the industry, in the professional beauty industry, can sometimes be expensive, inaccessible. Um, I wanted you to talk a little bit about that. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what are your feelings about education and how it's presented to the professional and the aspiring professional?
Yeah, so I noticed a lot of gaps within the industry, and specifically I noticed the gaps with apprenticeship programs. I noticed what apprentices were doing, and we'll get a little bit more into the difference of apprenticeship programs versus assistant programs in cosmetology school. And I saw that salon owners were only building the individual to what benefited them. They weren't really building them for the individual success, and they were keeping them at this level or being able to only offer pretty much what the salon could benefit from. They weren't really teaching them what an apprentice program should be taught, which is all of the curriculum that a school teaches. So they weren't getting everything that they should be getting. And so I saw that, and that was one of the pieces. But overall, I think that when we talk about communities that have been marginalized, we already come from not having financial literacy, for not having resources, just like life skills in general, just a lot of access to everyday resources. And so when we combine that and a lower level of education in cosmetology, we're not really being set up for success. So I had thought, why not create a program where we're able to teach them what they're supposed to learn in cosmetology school, not really adding anything, or saying, besides obviously the texture, which has now been passed in California. So that's not the focus that I'm going to emphasize in here, but really adding that at a higher level of meaning where I'm at and where the mentors are at that will be teaching them in a more luxury way of how to provide this service, while also adding, how to build them both professionally and personally in a holistic way, so that they can be successful behind the chair and outside of the salon as well.
So you touched on this. Tell us, what is the difference between going into a salon, going through an assistant program versus an apprenticeship program?
Okay, I will. And I'm speaking just on behalf of California, state of California. I know that it's different in other places. And then I'm also going to speak on terms based off of state board because maybe somebody might call it something in their salon. An apprenticeship program is a state approved program. It is where you work while you learn. You still are required to complete all of the related training hours, which is all of we use Miladies, so all of the curriculum that is in Miladies. You're supposed to complete those hours while you complete hours behind the chair. So this allows individuals to work. They have to get paid at least minimum wage while they're working. So it allows them to work and make money while they're going to school. An assistant program could be they've already finished cosmetology school. They're now coming into a salon where they have an assistant program where they're teaching them certain techniques, certain tools, certain haircuts, certain color, and they're usually assisting while they're learning, but they already have a cosmetology license. With an apprenticeship license, also when they come in and they want to be an apprentice, it has to be approved by a state board facility and instructor, which we are. They come in, they do their application, they give their deposit to start this program, and then we send the application to state board. It takes right now it's taking about up to 2 months to receive it back. Well, it gets sent to the salon that they're working at. With that license, they're able to work on clients as long as they're working under a licensee. So the difference is they're getting more education, hands-on education. They're able to work, and the hopes and what I see, I guess I'll stop there before I go into what our program is, but that is the difference between the assistant program and a apprenticeship program.
And thank you for wanting to segue into that because you said specifically what you address are things that maybe are not necessarily in the curriculum or maybe not necessarily emphasized, but also with an end of being able to provide, as you said, luxury services. So what were the gaps that you saw missing or that white space that you wanted to enter in and fill up?
Yeah, I think teaching individuals, meeting them where they're at, understanding what it is that they need to be able to help and build them off of that. So also not expecting folks to all learn the same way and take everything as a blanket approach, and being able to work one-on-one with each individual. But aside from what the gaps were, and I don't, and it's not necessarily gaps, because recently I was creating something and I saw what a cosmetology school is supposed to provide. And they're actually not supposed to provide everything that I thought was a gap,
Mm.
as the parts of pretty much like how to build a business, how to create that business, the financial piece. They touch on it very bits and pieces. But when I looked at some of the schools of what was guaranteed in there, it's pretty much guaranteed for them to pass their state board. So and it's needed, right? It's needed. And I was able to experience it because when I moved to the Bay Area and I worked for the first commission for the first commission based salon. I've always been independent contractor, but I thought I have to do that because I don't know anyone out here. But when I had the opportunity to open the suite, and when I said I wanted to do everything different, was because I did not know how much money was coming in. I didn't know how much money I was spending at any of the beauty supply stores. I didn't do anything on that. So I wanted to do everything right. That was gonna set me up that was gonna be sustainable and build something for longevity and to set myself up for when I get older, and all of these pieces that are very important. But we don't know these things. And I think that sometimes when there's certain privileges, or some folks might know these things because they're already taught these things, regardless of what industry they're on, they know financial literacy, they know responsibilities, or they have resources. And some of us don't. We kind of have to go out there and play on our own and figure it out, and then hopes that we do change, or hopes that we get the support that we need. But in the curriculum that I've built, all of those things are included to be able to set them up. Seeing a lot of the gaps or a lot of the turnover rate in salon suites, I think is another key of wanting to, like, how can we onboard folks to give them these tools so that they can be successful, because it is hard, and you need some strategy and some structure to be able to have that longevity in a business.
Hmm. I appreciate too that you said, you looked at what was part of the curriculum, and a lot of those things aren't promised also because there's just so much that has to be covered. There's so many things. I mean, we make there's no finger pointing here. I recognize that. It's just you kind of did your due diligence and realized that it wasn't promised that all these things are going to be touched on. And I also appreciate that you say that not everyone comes into a program knowing how to crunch their numbers or knowing the importance of showing up every day on time, ready to go. I mean, those are things that we either have kind of been gifted, taught, trained, or not. Um, Thank you. Thank you for kind of that explainer, but also I wanted you to talk a little bit more about another kind of initiative that you're launching, if you don't mind, around a podcast.
Oh yeah. So I have Devin, which is one of my now employees at the suite. And we had been doing lives for a year, and she had mentioned, like, originally it was going to be, she wanted to do a podcast. And I said, let's do lives for a bit and see, how it goes. And then a year later comes and she's like, hey, like, we said we were going to do this, which I appreciate the nudge, because I think that it takes a partnership when we want to do things. And so we are going to be launching our first episode, and it's really like what we noticed taking all of these lives and seeing like who was watching, questions that were being asked, is that we want to blend both the consumer and the beauty professional, because that's what we saw that was there a lot.
Hmm.
We want to talk about, you know things that conversations that we have with our guests in our chair are very important. And I think that there's a lot of there's a what we've noticed is that there's a lot that we share with individuals, and talking about mental health, or some struggles, growth, celebrations, um, a little bit of kikiing on there, and also just like tips and tricks about hair. So it's kind of like a hair talk. But wanting to bring the consumer in. And I think that when Devin and I were talking about this, because we gave this episode to folks to give us feedback and like see how it was. And there's that part of like, well, is it for the consumer? Is it for the stylist? And we're like, I think this is a way of us also maybe bridging that gap of what folks think about hairstylists versus what they don't
Hmm.
know, like welcoming them into our world. Also, so that they can see and notice and possibly respect people in service, and maybe be a little bit more mindful when they're working with people in service of them, or being able to maybe think, oh, I actually will pay that price for whatever service it is, because it's all of these things that go into it. So blending it both, and I think it's an experiment, and wanting to see that. I think it's always, everything is kind of separate. So wanting to be mindful of bringing everyone together into it.
That's great because that's a nice thing to hear about for 2025 because in 2024, I do feel like we saw a lot of rumbling, grumbling, and a lot of hairdressers, I think, feeling kind of beat up. Um, so this is good news. Do you have a launch date?
We have a launch day. It's going to be coming out this month on the 22nd.
Okay. All right. That's great. And V, is there anything I haven't asked you or talked about that you feel is important to emphasize before I let you go?
No, I guess I could add my part on that part of like what you were saying, that a lot of hairstylists are feeling rumbly and grumbly. And I guess as I was reflecting at the end of the year, you know, I I was kind of feeling that way the last couple of months. And I kind of like wasn't posting. I don't know what happened. Like it just kind of felt this way, but I also was okay with like not doing it. Like kind of like I don't have to make sure I post this and finding that balance. And as I was reflecting, I want to give thanks that so many great things happened last year. It there was, especially like when I really got into like every month, I was like, whoa, like there was a lot, and I'm beyond grateful for that. But this year for me, 2025 is finding the balance and being successful while still being able to nurture the relationships in my life, meaning my family or friends, business partners, and really being intentional with those folks, because without them, I wouldn't be here. And that at the end of the day, in the long road, that's what matters, is relationships and community. And so being able to find the balance on both of those so that I don't show up to an event exhausted because I've been doing everything business. And so finding the balance in that while still being successful, not minimizing the work or the hustle or anything like that, but being able to do both.
That's great. That's a good resolution or just intention for the year. Well, thank you for taking time to talk to me. I'm really grateful and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year.